No warrior in history has ever matched the legendary swordsman and philosopher Miyamoto Musashi, whose free spirit has best embodied the adage, "Death can have me when it earns me." Having experienced more than 60 duels to death and still dying of natural causes, no one has revolutionized Japanese martial arts culture and the meaning of being a samurai the way he has. His writings, particularly the Book of Five Rings, continue to influence leaders and thinkers around the world. Miyamoto Musashi, originally named Benosuke, was born in 1584 in the town of Miyamoto in the Harima province, present-day Hyogo Prefecture in Japan. Shinmen Munisai, his father, was a skilled martial artist and a master of the sword and yute, a weapon used by samurai in the Edo era. Munisai was well known not only for his fighting skills but also for being the creator of the Hyoho Shiji Nikajo, a martial arts scroll that had a big impact on young Musashi. Musashi was exposed to danger at a young age due to the death of his mother, Omasa, not long after he came into this world. When Musashi was born, the Sengoku period, also known as the Age of Warring States, was a time of intense turmoil that lasted from the middle of the 15th century to the start of the 17th century. Because of the feudal lords, daimyos, persistent struggle for dominance, this period was marked by civil unrest and almost incessant military conflict. During that period, samurai were highly sought after as military retainers, and a person's martial skill might determine not only their own fate but also the fate of a whole territory. One can safely assume that Musashi's destiny to become a warrior seemed almost inevitable given the circumstances of his birth. After his mother passed away too soon, Shinmen Munisai, Musashi's father, was more preoccupied with his responsibilities and possibly his own martial activities. It is thought that he served as a retainer for the local lords. According to historical accounts, Munisai may have been involved in intricate military and political matters that would have limited his ability to raise his kid by requiring him to travel or engage in combat. Because of these limitations, and maybe as a result of the unsteady Sengoku-era climate, Musashi was transferred to live with his uncle Dorinbo, a monk at a nearby monastery. It was most likely believed that this arrangement would provide Musashi with a stable upbringing and guarantee his safety during such turbulent times. The philosophical foundations of martial arts that Musashi adopted during his learning process were influenced by Dorinbo. The orderly atmosphere of the temple encouraged introspection and meditation, which Musashi would later recommend as necessary for mastering the warrior's way. It's possible that, in addition to teaching Musashi the physical arts, Dorinbo also exposed him to the idea of mushin, no mind, which is a critical martial arts state of awareness and instinctive movement. Furthermore, the strategic placement of a temple frequently required that the monks possess some level of self-defense expertise, and it's plausible that Dorinbo was knowledgeable in these areas on top of his religious responsibilities. From an early age, Miyamoto Musashi's motivations were intricately layered, shaped by a strong desire to uphold his family's honor, a personal quest for mastery, and the necessity of survival in a chaotic era. His pursuit of martial arts excellence was driven not just by personal ambition, but also by societal respect and rewards for martial prowess during the turbulent Sengoku period. This pursuit was both a means to ensure personal survival and a way to maintain his family's esteemed legacy in a time when the skills of a samurai were crucial to both. At the age of 13, Miyamoto Musashi gained his name in the samurai world when he defeated visiting warrior Arima Kihei in a close-fought fight after the latter had publicly challenged Musashi in his village. Samurai who were looking to prove their mettle or build their reputation would frequently engage in this activity. Even though Musashi was still a young man, he accepted the challenge out of pure bravery and a strong desire to demonstrate his martial arts prowess. In front of samurai onlookers, the battle showcased Musashi's developing abilities and tactics. Historical accounts suggest that Kihei initially underestimated Musashi because of his age, an assumption that ended up costing him his life. Employing the element of surprise and intending to confuse his opponent psychologically, Musashi fought without conventional armor or equipment, using a wooden staff instead of a sword. It was a crucial milestone in his career since he quickly defeated Kihei by skillfully utilizing distance and timing. As a result, his local reputation was greatly enhanced, and his dedication to the samurai way was reinforced by this triumph. It was a brazen declaration of his goals in martial arts and a self-assessment of his ability. From this point on, Musashi's warrior life takes a different path and turns into a never-ending battle with what lies beyond death. The Battle of Sekigahara, fought in 1600, marked a significant turning point in Japanese history as it established the rule of Tokugawa Ieyasu and the beginning of the Edo period. Despite fighting alongside the defeated Western army, Musashi's fighting skills and tenacity were evident. Following Sekigahara, Musashi roamed around and engaged in numerous duels to hone his skills. One memorable fight was against Tadashima Akiyama in Dewa, when he defeated the expert spearman by deftly using the last of the sunset light to his advantage. Subsequently, Musashi traveled to Kyoto, where he competed in the esteemed Yoshioka Sword School and defeated Yoshioka Seijuro and his brother Denshichiro in a ferocious duel. This further defeat led the Yoshioka clan to plot a more drastic confrontation against Musashi, culminating in an ambush involving multiple Yoshioka swordsmen. Musashi reportedly arrived early to the agreed location, anticipated the ambush, and positioned himself advantageously to fight. In the ensuing chaos, he defeated a significant number of attackers, effectively dismantling the power and prestige of the Yoshioka school. One of the most important parts of his tale was the combat with the well-known staff-wielding Muso Gonosuke. The details are obscured by myth, but Gonosuke's retreat to the mountains and the development of Jojutsu, which eventually became the Shinto Muso Ryu style, shows how deeply Musashi influenced martial traditions. But without a doubt, Musashi's most famous combat took place on the Ganryu Island against the greatest of all his opponents, Sasaki Kojiro. Kojiro was a force to be reckoned with. He was one of the most skilled swordsmen during the late Sengoku period, and the founder of the Ganryu school, which focused on techniques using the nodachi, a long sword he named Drying Pole. He was also renowned for his signature move, the Tsubame Geshi, or swallow reversal. This technique involved a swift, slicing attack, following an initial downward slash, creating an arc that is difficult to predict and defend against. This cut was supposedly so quick and accurate that it could have brought down a bird in mid-air. It seems that when Musashi was younger, roughly 29 years old at the time, he learned of Kojiro's enormous reputation and asked Lord Hosokawa Tadaoki to set up a duel between Kojiro and himself. Hosokawa consented and established the date, time and location, April 13, 1612, on Funashima's isolated Ganrujima Island. The reason the match was set in such a remote location was that Kojiro had a large following at the time, and if Kojiro had lost, they would have most likely attempted to kill Musashi out of revenge. In order to psychologically unsettle his opponent, it is said that Musashi purposefully arrived on a boat more than 3 hours late. Kojiro was waiting for him when he landed on the beach. While on the boat ride, Musashi used his weapon to sharpen an oar in preparation for the duel, even though he was only carrying his wakizashi. Ultimately, the oar was transformed into a surito, a bokken with an unusually long length. He insulted Kojiro after arriving, which infuriated him. He struck with a blow that struck Musashi so close to the body that it cut his hachimaki. Kojiro had numerous opportunities to win the fight, but Musashi, with a bold and calculated move, struck him in the skull with his long bokken, instantly ending his life. According to a different narrative, Kojiro cursed at Musashi when he eventually showed up, but Musashi just smirked. Enraged even more, Kojiro charged into battle while blinded by rage and tried to execute his famous spinning swallow slash move, but Musashi's massive bokken struck Kojiro first, sending him sprawling to the ground before he could finish the move. After breaking his left rib and thus perforating his lung, Musashi became the ultimate winner of this legendary confrontation he held against his most formidable opponent ever. Following his fabled combat with Sasaki Kojiro, Musashi made the decision to give up his career as a public swordsman. He made his home in a cave in Kyushu known as Regondo, a tiny hermitage. Here, in the seclusion and bare minimalism of hermit life, Musashi explored in great detail the spiritual and philosophical elements that had been the foundation of his martial achievement. During this moment of profound introspection and personal development, Musashi synthesized his life's lessons into ideas that went beyond the realm of martial arts. Through his intense experiences in close quarters and on the battlefield, Musashi learned about combat techniques, human nature, and warfare. These lessons came together in his solitude to form a more comprehensive philosophical framework. He considered not only fighting tactics but also the essence of existence, struggle, and life itself. Musashi created a school of thought that emphasized the value of flexibility, the interaction between reality and perception, and the necessity of mastering the mind in addition to the sword. He wrote the Book of Five Rings, Go-Rin no Sho, which is still regarded as a foundational work on strategy, tactics, and philosophy while he was in this reflective mood. The 5 scrolls that make up the book are each named after a component of the world. The Earth Scroll is an introductory portion that describes the Niton Ichi Ryu, or Musashi's own style, as well as the fundamental postures and mindsets that a warrior has to have. Know the smallest things and the biggest things, the shallowest things and the deepest things. As if it were a straight road mapped out on the ground, the first book is called the Ground Book. The Water Scroll. In this section, Musashi delves deeply into the tactical details of fighting maneuvers. He places a strong emphasis on fluidity, like water, which can adjust to the motions of an opponent and the shifting circumstances of combat with ease. The Fire Scroll, inspired by the erratic, all-consuming nature of fire, this scroll addresses issues of energy and timing in conflict. It teaches when to use force and how to start using aggressive techniques. The Wind Scroll. Here, Musashi highlights the advantages and disadvantages of alternative techniques while contrasting his own approach with those of the established schools of Japanese sword combat. The Void Scroll. The last section discusses the depth of genuine mastery in terms of philosophy and spirituality. The Void stands for knowledge that goes beyond technical proficiency, a comprehension of the nature and tactics of battle that goes beyond common sense. Musashi's teachings echo through the ages, not so much for their relevance to martial arts, but rather because they provide insight into matters of dealing with conflict, strategy, and adaptation in a great many battles of life. His advice on perception, mindset, and strategy is helpful not only to leaders, business strategists, and corporate practitioners, but to all who would like to practice personal mastery. The Book of Five Rings is anything but a plain swordplay manual. Rather, it serves as a strategic treatise on the battlefield of strategy that could apply universally, and this makes the work clearly one of the most important readings for humanity today. The transformation of Musashi Miyamoto from a feared swordsman and ronin into a revered philosopher and teacher vividly exemplifies a life consecrated to perfecting martial techniques and the pursuit of deeper truths about existence and human nature. His works and life humanly constituted a testimony to the power of change and the lasting legacy of a mind sharpened through the rigors of countless duels and the quiet solitude of reflection.